Back a while ago I made this video about owning a 2010 iMac in 2018, which is, by the way, here in the background chugging along rendering a video for you. And when I made this video, it got really good reception. You really liked this style of video. And I thought, why not make one of those again? Because I use another rather old system as a main machine. And I'm talking about my 2007 MacBook Pro. 2007 MacBook Pro, 15-inch, a 2 gigahertz or something Core 2 Duo Merom processor, so not even the latest Core 2 Duo. It has, I think, even a backlight keyboard, even though I don't know if it works, or I really never turned it on because I think it's just a battery waster. Anyway, I replaced the battery, upgraded it to 4 gigabytes of RAM, and put an SSD in it. And all of that cost me $200. I got this used, listed as broken. However, it only needed a hard drive and a power supply. Now I have 4.5 hours, maybe even 5 hours of battery life, which is pretty good for such an old machine. The power supply though cost me hilarious $90. It's just insane. Apple, you really suck with your power adapter prices, but I really wanted the original power supply because when you go for a cheap replacement Chinese one, they're known to have problems. It can be really dangerous. Same goes for batteries in some cases, but I made sure it is a certified one, and mine is working pretty good, so I don't see a problem with it blowing up or something. However, I got it for really cheap. And why did I get it for so cheap? Well, that was because at the time I was really angry at Apple because my other laptop developed problems. I had a 2012 Retina MacBook Pro which froze up one time during a lecture, which was very bad, and that sucked a lot. It just would freeze up, and I had to hard shut it down, and once I booted up again, it was fine, but it would do these random freezes and crashes here and there, and that really sucked ass. And I thought, I don't feel like paying another $500 or even $400 for another computer just because this one POS can't work. So I got this really cheap MacBook Pro, and I was a little skeptical at first because after all, this is a 2007 machine. And I didn't know if it was up to the task of what I wanted to do, which is mainly looking at PDFs and programming. I really don't do all that much web browsing on these even. I just really mostly am sitting at the terminal, type in something, I'm sitting at a text editor, and maybe Microsoft Word or PDF open. So I thought, this can't be so hard, this for a computer these days. So I think that one of those can still do it fine. So I bought this. I had no choice. This one was one of the cheapest models, and this looks like a PowerBook G4 design. It has still this optical drive at the front and all the ports on the side. What comes in pretty handy on this one is it has a Ethernet port back because the Retinas don't have it, and had some problems here and there, so now I have it again. It has USB, which I need a lot. USB! New Macs, USB, not such a regular thing anymore. Has the MagSafe, and port-wise it's overkill. I wouldn't even need half of the ports. Now when it comes to power, does it work? Is it sufficient? Is it slow? Is it crappy? Well, let me tell you. One thing you absolutely have to do to increase the performance is replace that stock hard drive. The stock hard drive was just so slow. It was dragging it down very bad. Firefox something would launch in 30 seconds at the best, maybe a little faster, but it was horrible. It was really slow. So once I swapped this to an SSD, that machine turned into like a whole different machine. It was way more responsive. Boot time was way quicker. Just overall, everything was faster. So really, if there's one thing you have to do is replace that hard drive, and then you're gonna get a way better performance. I also upgraded the RAM to 4 gigs. This had 2 gigs when I got it. Me being a computer guy. I have tons of RAM laying around. I had the appropriate RAM for it, and I upgraded to 4, and now it's running with 4. I think it could even take 6 or something like that. But 4 is fine for what I do. And so, new battery, and this thing was good to go. Now I only had to find out if it would actually be working for my needs. And I was so surprised. Sure, it wasn't a retina screen, it wasn't as fast when loading stuff, but I got everything done with it. I even typed one really long, exhausting, shitty assignment on this machine, which had, I think, 700 lines of code, something like that. And this didn't struggle on compiling it. This did it one of those, no problem. Sure, the MacBook Pro Retina did it way quicker, of course, it having an i5, not a Core 2 Duo, but I really didn't care. I just watched this loading bar, and once my program loaded, I was happy, and I thought, man, I did one of those freaking big-ass assignments on this machine. This is as much as it will do for now. I don't care. I'm gonna keep this. I will continue using it. This did it beautifully. The keyboard is feeling nice. The screen, the 15-inch screen, is actually helping out a bit. So I can have the program side by side. It's on a 13-inch screen. I could only have it like one at a time. I always did it like that. It's like a personal thing. Nevertheless, I would really like a 13-inch. If this would be a 13-inch, it would be better, because when you're sitting in a lecture room, you don't have all that much space, and so this thing takes up most of the space. But then again, this is the only thing I have usually, maybe one sheet of paper or something, but mostly the laptop only, so it's not that big of a problem. And so I can really say it's working beautifully. It's running El Capitan 10.11. I started off in version 10.9. I thought it would be so much quicker in 10.9, but it was actually, I don't see it being slower on 10.11 or that much slower that you really notice it. I turned off all the fancy stuff. I turned off dashboard and all the animations to just get everything out of it. And it's working beautifully. I just can't say it often enough. It is for me, it is perfectly sufficient. Now, you see the age of this computer when you're going on modern websites, though. When you're loading Facebook or YouTube or something like that, it's taking a while. Once it's, it plays it fine in 1080p, but once it's rendered the page, it takes longer than on a, new computer, of course. And that is due to, I think, also its graphics card, which is known for being very unreliable. It's got like an old NVIDIA graphics card, a mobile, that's supposed to fuck up your system at one day in your life. However, mine is working fine. But you keep telling me this. Replace this computer. Your graphics card will have problems. It's guaranteed to fail. It's you know what? I don't care if it fails. I have no choice. Maybe I'll even replace the main board in one of those if I can find one or not. But I only paid very little money for this, and for the money I paid, I got a lot more back than I expected. So if this fails, I'm gonna be pissed, but I'm not gonna be as pissed as I was with the Retina, because that was pretty bad. Yes, it was a 2012 first gen product, but come on. Nobody could figure out what it really was. It must be some sort of chip failing on a circuit board somewhere doing that, maybe a sleep-wake thing. I really couldn't figure it out. Could be graphics card, could be anything. The 27, it really surprised me. It is sort of vintage. It's really old. 2007 is now a long time gone. And I think this came with maybe even Tiger? Maybe even Tiger, but I think it came with Leopard. And so, back then OS X was different and programs weren't as demanding. So the 2 gigs were fine in 2007. However, in 2018, 2 gigs, you're not going anywhere. Everything's just grown so big and so exhausting. So you need more RAM. But with 4 gigs, at least I can manage with 4 gigs. Now, I'm not saying that I recommend this to anybody like I did with the iMac. The iMac is still a beautiful, capable machine. i7 processor, 10 gigs of RAM in my case, a big ass screen, a nice graphics card. Anyone can still use that. However, the 2007 MacBook Pro is only for guys like me who really know what you're getting into, what you need to do. You need to know that. If you're only looking at documents all day, you can do it easily. However, if you do any kind of like video editing or any graphical demanding stuff, don't get it. Please do not get it. Then it's really slow and outdated. But for regular, smaller tasks like I do, not anything demanding is perfectly fine. And I'm gonna give you that one too. One time I actually rendered a YouTube video 1080p from my iPhone in Final Cut on this 2007 MacBook Pro, and guess what? It worked. I let it sit render. It took longer, it took very long, but it got it done, and it wasn't as bad as I first thought. So even for emergencies, I could do it fine. It was no problem at all. Sure, it isn't as smooth and as responsive as the 2012 was, but what do I expect anyway? It's such an old machine, and Apple clearly says it's outdated. So, for such an old computer, it's such a nice design, such a reliable, cool design. Apart from the graphics card, I think it's a really nice machine for the money you can buy them for. They're really cheap. You can get them for 160 up or something, maybe even cheaper. However, story looks way different on a Core Duo MacBook Pro. On Core Duos, I don't know if you can still use one of those in day to day. I don't have one of those. Maybe I'll get one of those one day. But a Core Duo is a way different story. It's not a 64-bit chip. It only goes to Snow Leopard. You know, it's a way different story. This goes up to 10.11 at least. So the software support is still there. Even if that declines at one day, you can still put a Linux on there. It's gonna perform really nice on Linux. Same goes for Windows. You can put Windows 7 officially on here, and unofficially you can run Windows 10 no problem at all. So what can I say? I want to get this word out to all of those who watch these YouTube reviews. You can do very much on like small, slower, older machines. I hope you kind of found this interesting. It is sort of more a talking video. I know you really have to decide for yourself if you can use this machine. I warn you, it's not the fastest in the world, and it surely is in some aspects outdated. But for the stuff I do, which I told you, really simple things, it's kicking ass, and it was a killer deal. And it's just so fun to see all of those geeks with their Retina MacBook Pros and their MacBooks and whatnot sitting in the lecture room doing the exact same stuff, and I'm doing it on my 2007 MacBook Pro, and I'm like, yeah, I paid like that much from what you paid for your machine, and probably I'm even out using it more than you doing with your 2,500 euro computer, but that's just a rant for another day. So thank you for watching, and see you later.